have anything to do with it? I need my Jamie.
First of all, it's a pleasure for me to say hello to all the wonderful ladies who are joining us, and I feel bad that I haven't had a chance to get to know you. The guys are, of course, of exceptional caliber and quality, so pick out whichever ones you want, take them back with you, and that's just wonderful. And I'm sorry, guys, they're laughing at that suggestion. I don't know why that might be, but it is certainly wonderful to have this opportunity to speak to the entire group. And I can just hope that everybody has gotten a tremendous amount. When do you guys go back? Tuesday. Tuesday. So this is it. We're coming down to this Tuesday? Like in 2 days?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I said it's over. It's over! Probably one of the more dramatic moments of your life, these few weeks here in Israel, in all kinds of fascinating classes and unusual activities, a little bit different. And we go back from whence we came. So I want to speak about a topic that I think will have some relevance for us, because it's a decision that we have to make in our own life. And as we'll see later on, as our life continues, this will be a very important decision. How many people here had any kind of Jewish education? Okay. How many people found that an inspirational, informative, positive, spiritual, intellectually challenging, experience? Yeah. Yeah, that would just about do it. That's pretty good. And in fact, what I have to think is one of the saddest commentaries is the head for Jews for Jesus said that if he had enough money, he would pay to send every Jewish kid to afternoon Hebrew school, because he can't think of a better way to make them Christians. So I think that's kind of sad. I think that's kind of sad. And I think that education, at least the one that the average Jewish kid gets, is not working. So the question is why? Where is education not succeeding? Jewish education. For the ladies, this is the group participation part of the program, where Rav Arlofsky asks you a thought-provoking question, and you give inane answers, and I cut you down. Okay. in a warm-hearted kind of way. Yeah. So where is Jewish education failing? Why isn't it working? Why are so many people going to Hebrew school, having some kind of Jewish education, and walk out with the experience that we had of this was terrible? Yeah.
We're just teaching like the rituals and the way that it's always been, not teaching the reasons.
Yeah, now you do this and now you do that. Why? Don't ask any questions. That's the way we've always done it. Tradition! Tradition! Yes!
Because the teachers aren't into it themselves, and they don't necessarily know exactly what they're talking about either.
Yeah, it's hard to get people who really know what's going on. And oftentimes, they have no qualifications, except that perhaps they taught some other subject, or they happen to be the only one who's, somewhat affiliated and they chose them to teach Hebrew school. But oftentimes, they don't answer the question because they just don't know. Yes, ma'am?
Parents don't affiliate stuff in their homes, like if they learn about Shabbat in Hebrew school, they don't go home and do it or practice it.
I was speaking with a group once, and someone told me that they took a course at Hebrew University on the topic of Jewish education in communities. And they said the biggest problem is that the schools and the families don't have the same values. In other words, the schools will come in to teach something, and the kids, the families don't believe in it. So the question is then, how do you solve that? They didn't give any answer. But it's true. We're going to go in. I taught afternoon Hebrew school at one point, and I spoke to the kids, and I said, listen, you got to take this seriously. And they said, why? And I said, because otherwise, I'll speak to your parents. My parents don't care. My parents say, you have to go, so you have your bar mitzvah, your bat mitzvah, and then you never have to go again. That's beautiful. So that gives me a lot of leverage as a teacher. You know what I mean? Like, nobody cares. Yeah. Why else is it failing? Yes?
you don't gain any like intellectual.
This is one of the most horrible experiences. How many people here have been to a model Seder? Oh, you missed out on it? Oh my gosh. Model Seder, that's the best. You go to Hebrew school, and when you're in first grade, they do a model Seder. And somebody dresses up like the grandfather and sits at the front of the table, and they put out the little matzah, and the boiled egg, and the potato, you know what I mean? And they make a cup, and they sing Dayenu a few times, and they do this in second grade, third grade, fourth grade. So it's like coming out of your ears. How exciting! The real Seder's not that exciting. A model Seder, you know what I'm saying? It's just the same thing every year. Now here comes Hanukkah, and here's the mighty Maccabee. It's dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made you out of clay. You know what I'm saying? But it's always so exciting it's going to be. Same stuff every year. Never grows. Very sick. Yeah.
Spiritual connection is lacking.
Oh boy. Spirituality. I never saw that in Hebrew school. Yeah. It's not a terribly spiritual experience. It's all meant to be, I don't think. It's to get you through and to get it over with. Hi. I like the way you slipped in like that, because I never would have noticed. That was very good. 40 years. What did they wear?
Same clothes.
Same clothes. Now, clothing has a tendency to wear off. Now, girls will not relate to this, okay? Now, I know this because I have 7 daughters and 1 son. And my son, like me, wear clothes until they disintegrate on your body. Now, often we guys will keep wearing it even after that. You understand? But like that's it. My daughters will buy a somewhat expensive, nice outfit and wear it 4 times and then say, I don't like it. So what do you mean you don't like it? You understand? You'll wear it. You understand? Till it falls apart, you know? No. It's just they have all these outfits in their closet and they don't like it. You understand? So they got one outfit, but even so, even if you like it for 40 years, the thing's going to disintegrate. So I said one of the miracles was that the clothing grew along with them. So if you were a little kid, you were wearing an outfit, as you got older, it grew along with you into, you know, adult clothing. The only thing is that only applied to clothing that they wore, not clothing that they kept in suitcases. So this is fascinating. I heard this once from Rav Pelkovitz in Farakli. Brilliant insight. He said, what it means is, and it's true with every experience, the only thing that grows with you is the one that you keep carrying. If the experience doesn't grow with you, if you put it away someplace, it's finished. So, in best case scenario, people are in university and they're having a 12-year-old Jewish experience. But often they don't even have a 12-year-old Jewish experience. They have a 6-year-old Jewish experience. Because they've gotten the same one for 6 years since they were in first grade. The same exact experience. And it's like so meaningless. Who really wants to play dreidel? I mean, okay, it's cute for a while. How many latkes can you eat? Good, it's cute. Does that stack up to Christmas? No way! You understand? So we play the dreidel, we eat the latkes, we light the little candles, as we brave Jews fought against the Greek Empire because they wanted to give us civilization and culture. And we drove them out and killed them. Thank you very much. That's great. Now, all the great Greek authors, all the philosophers, like, kill them so we can play dreidel. It doesn't stack up. And they're not happy. So that's a very, very serious thing. To get Judaism on an adult level. Remember one time I was doing a program, and at the end they'd go around the room and everybody would say one word to sum it up. Some people would say interesting, nice, good, happy, fun, meaningful, deep, spiritual, you know. And I told the story to the guys. Yeah, not too bad, you don't remember anything. So they go over it again. Anyway, so they go around and this is one word. And there's this one guy, this big guy, you know, like a biker with tattoos and stuff. You know, he's like angry. I said, well, that's it, I'm dead. So they go around, they say, you know, well, everybody pick whatever their word was, and he said, I'm angry that no one ever taught me this before. How come nobody ever told me this stuff? And it's true. What we get in Hebrew school just doesn't seem to do it. Yes, come along, the Kiddush now. Anyway, yeah, it's true. There's not a lot of meaning to it. So now this is very important because we have to figure out, when we identify what the problems are, we have to decide what are we going to do for our kids that's going to be different. How are we going to be able to give our kids a better education? Okay, we have a Hebrew school teacher here. What's your name?
Nina.
Nina. Nina, how are we going to solve these problems?
Well, the curriculum, first of all, that is in my school, is changing, and a lot of these problems are being addressed and dealt with as we go. But also, a lot of it just comes from the home. And you just pick the school you send your children to, and you pick the level of education. Like I know for us, a lot of the children that are in the school, it's because their parents that. And they don't want us to give homework to the kids. They don't want us getting.
I'm in your school. In other words, what's the school you want to see that you send your kids to?
Do you mean like what I'll look for in the school, or the type of requirements that they want in the education?
Okay. Oh, that sounds good.
Okay. Type of thing I look for in school are teachers that are educated themselves. I don't consider myself, I don't teach the class by myself, and I wouldn't be qualified to do that. But in addition, none of the Hebrew schools I've been exposed to in conservative schools expose children to text necessarily. It's all children's Bible, here's your first story, you know.
Nor the ark, nor the picture.
Yeah, basically. And, you know, my journal describe your favorite Shabbat memory. I ate the challah. It's pretty two-dimensional, so a little bit more of that. And then,
Okay.
at the synagogue, and I don't know.
Are they happy with it?
It was okay. I had some, you know, quarrels with my rabbi, but now I understand better where he's coming from. He was a very traditional rabbi in a very reformed synagogue. Go figure.
Guy needs a job.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Right. And he
Yeah.
had a good job. But I don't know if anyone else has had this experience, but a lot of our Hebrew teachers were Israelis. Did anyone else have that?
Yeah.
So like,
And I should point out that many of them are not Hebrews, they're just Israelis.
right, they're just Israelis.
There's some concept that if you're an Israeli, you're qualified to teach Hebrew. Most of the time, you're not qualified to drive a cab. You know what I mean? You never got one of these cabs out.
So it's like, it's hard for them, I think, to relate to us and like where we were coming from as far as like being American students, you know, going to public school and then when neighbors are Hebrew school because they, you know, their kids grew up with it at home, like, you know, learning Hebrew and stuff, so, teaching, so.
Oh, for sure, it's going to be a problem.
So, I mean, because.
I want to tell you what I think is one of the worst things, because I've seen that kind of situation. And they make it perfectly clear to the teachers that you better not say what you think. So the kids will be like, so what do you think? I don't know, ask the rabbi. Yeah, but don't you think? I don't know, I can't say. But don't you feel I can't say anything? Don't ask any questions. And he's starting to get this feeling of, I don't know, rabbis are so wishy-washy. Of course, because they're either wishy-washy or unemployed. So they're going to be like, well, you know, there's different ways, there's different things. Yes, ma'am.
I loved my Hebrew school. I absolutely adored all my teachers.
That's so nice.
No, I really had good teachers. It wasn't the teachers that I found the problems. It was the people in my class and the parents. Like, I had like all these ADD people in my class, and anytime they stand up on the desk and start screaming, they get sent to the principal's office, and the mommy and daddy would come in, and they wouldn't get in trouble, and they get sent back in class. So you
Now, one second, see, she's making a good point. What she means,
told her that if it was up to him, she wouldn't even be in Hebrew school right now, just because her mother wants her to go. And it's just like, when you get that, of course you're not going to respect your teachers, even though they might have a lot to add, you know? But if you're not, if you know, 99% of the class isn't ready to learn, then the teachers can't even teach if they have something to say.
this is really depressing.
Every Hebrew school system.
Right.
And teach
Let's
your
say
own
you're a
children.
teacher, though.
Okay.
You deal with the average family and they just don't care.
Okay.
What can you do for these kids?
You might be able to invite them to your home. To
Teachers especially now have to watch what they do. My mom's an instructional aide for special ed, and she had a lot of ADD kids. She has a lot of ADD kids in her class, and she used to, you know, just touch them on the shoulder and bring them down to earth. And she can't do that anymore because it might be considered harassment, or she might have, you know. So you have to be careful. And if you invite.
And I think that if people knew what they were saying in their prayers, they would take them more seriously.
Okay. Yeah.
I think if you had
Well, let's see, leaving Tuesday. Give me something nice before you go. Now, you had your hand up.
I like, one of the things I like about you is that you ask questions to the group, and then it's a so it's a back and forth banter, which I don't think is done enough in classrooms.
That is true. You should know that is so true. I was teaching in the seminary, and I started raising certain questions and questioning certain assumptions they had on life. And so one of the girls said, oh, I know, you just want us to, and she gave her version of what she thought I wanted. I said, no, that's not true. I have a whole different agenda. I want you to think. I just want you to consider. Which I want you to know is one of the foundations of Jewish education. That was one of the foundations of Jewish education. There's a beautiful story, I don't know if I ever told it, where there was this fellow, Ruderman, and it was during World War I. Poverty in Europe was unbelievable, especially in Eastern Europe. And he went without food. He saved up penny by penny in order to buy himself a new pair of tzitzis. And he went to show his Rebbe, the Alt of Slobodka. He says, "Look, Rebbe, I brought a new pair of tzitzis." So the Rebbe looked at it and he said, "Maybe you should have given the money to charity." So everybody who was listening to him tell over the story said, "Oh, I get it. You should have given it to charity." He says, "No, you're making a mistake. If I would have told him I gave the money to charity, he would have said, maybe you should have bought a pair of tzitzis." In other words, you can never just be comfortable. You have to stop and think, is this the best I can be doing? Is this where I should be? I have to tell you what I think is one of the saddest things. I told this story. You know, this guy in Rosameach was saying to me, you know, about what life is about, where we're going, with this and that. And I said, what if you had a week left to live? A week left to live. I'd go here, I would do this, I would this, I would that, I would this. And he says, and you? I said, if I had a week left to live, I would do exactly what I'm doing. Because I'm constantly looking at my life saying, is this the best I can be? Is this what I want? Can I be doing better? And a lot of people just go through life like that, without thinking, without confronting. Right? The Talmud says, so the children should ask. We cover up the matzahs, we uncover the matzahs, we take the Seder plate off, we do all these things, so the kid should ask. We're inspiring someone to ask questions. And when the kid finally asks the question, what's the answer he gets? I don't know. It's a tradition. That's how Grandpa did it. You understand? So after a while, a kid learns not to have any questions. I had a kid going to a Jewish day school. And she says to me, you know why I'm not observant? I said, why? She says, no one ever answers my questions. Whenever I ask questions, they say, there's no answers, there's no this, there's no that. I said, if I answer all your questions, you'll get into this? She said, yeah. I said, go. And we sat there for 3 hours. She asked all her questions. She was shocked at her answers. She says, I didn't believe there were any answers. I took it for granted there were no answers. But the whole point is to inspire asking questions. Why? How is that supposed to be? Where's it coming from? And if we don't inspire kids to ask questions, and that's fundamental to Judaism. Why do Jews, you ever notice this? Jews always answer questions with a question. You ever notice that? Why is that?
Why not?
Why not? So, that's right. But in other words, the idea is that we learn by asking questions. The Medrash says this with Abraham. How did Abraham get into business? He figured out there's one God. So what did he do? He set up a tent in the middle of the desert, and people would come by to eat. And when it was all done, the people would say, well, it was a great meal. Thank you very much. He says, what are you thanking me for? Because you gave me this meal. I said, well, what did I give you? He said, you gave me this delicious fruit. He says, I didn't give it to you. It came from the tree. Oh, thank you very much, tree. So what do you think of the tree? It came from the ground. Oh, thank you very much, ground. So what do you think of the ground for? It burst out of the sun. Oh, thank you very much, sun. Right, the sun's only part of the earth. Well, thank you. What am I supposed to thank? Oh, you're thinking. Trace it back. Think. Confront all of your assumptions. And if education, I want to show you something more than that I think is also very important. Anyone know what the Hebrew word is for education? Lilmod is to learn. That's not education. Chinuch. Chinuch. You know another word that's similar to? It's a holiday. Hanukkah. Hanukkah is the holiday of dedication. We dedicated the temple. That's what education is supposed to be. Education is not supposed to be something where you learn something. It's got to be something where it becomes a part of your life. You read Tuesdays with Maureen?
Yeah.
Right? This guy's his professor, not just to teach him facts. I think one of the stories that I wrote that always stuck with me is that one time he comes into class and he sits there and he says nothing. And everyone's like, silence. It's like very uncomfortable. For 15 minutes, he's sitting there. 20 minutes, not a word is said. Some people were trying to control this out the window, people there, but you could feel the tension in the room. Finally he says, why is everybody so uncomfortable? He says, well, it's hard when it's quiet. He says, why? Because we want to reach out to people. We want to talk to people. We want to communicate. But I can tell you that. That doesn't mean anything. You experience it? A sense of dedication. Yeah, I don't want that. I was teaching Hebrew school, and it came time to do the model Seder. Now, I knew I dreaded this. The kids dreaded it. What for? So I went to the PTA. I said, give me the money you normally spend on the model Seder. I want to do something else. All right? So the kids show up. They say, where's that model Seder? Where's the gefilte fish? Where's the egg? Where's the matzah? I said, we're not doing that. What? I said, go wash your hands. So everybody washes their hands. They come back. I put out a new tablecloth. Every 2 kids have a grater. So what are we doing? He says, we're going to make horseradish. I said, well, horseradish comes in a jar. Yeah. Okay. See this horseradish root? Okay, it's all peeled. Now we're going to grate it. How many people here ever grated the horseradish in their house? Okay? Oh, this is a real Jewish experience. You have to grow up with this. If you don't grow up with this, you don't relate to it. Understand? You start grating it. Your eyes start tearing. You clean out your sinuses. You clean out your digestive tract. You know what I'm saying? It's this really powerful experience, you know? And people are grating it and they're crying and it's all there. And this is great. I'm having a lot of fun. So everyone's grating away, you know? And if you've ever done this in the house, you know, you wait till you have enough and then you stick it in your brother's face. Yeah, smell this. Ah! It's great. This is one of the thrills of being Jewish, right? Okay, we're all done. Everyone has their grated horseradish. We put it in a big bowl, put it aside. Wash out your graters, come back. They come back. We're going to make charosas. Charosas, that comes in those little envelopes. No. Okay? Start grating the apple. Now, if you've ever made charosas, you know that the traditional way of grating up charosas is a piece for the grater, a piece for me. A piece for the grater, a piece for me, right? You grate it up. You start chopping up the nuts, you mix it in. And these kids are the worst kids, quote unquote, who never were interested in studying and doing, but are coming to life. And they're grating and they're doing the whole thing. We make the charosas. I brought in a little grill. We grilled the shank bones. We grilled the eggs. We made all the preparations for the Seder. I brought out the let me lettuce again. Okay, we're going to check the lettuce. We prepare the lettuce. Have everything all set up. And kids were like, I can use this at the Seder. It's kosher Pesach. I'm going to bring this home. I'm going to show I prepared for the Seder. I could give 10 classes on Passover. It means nothing. When a kid is part of it, when you live it, when it's real, Judaism cannot be in a classroom. I went to a Jewish day school, and I learned about Purim every single year. Now, I grew up in Long Island, North Merrick. Okay? Merrick was at least a Jewish community. North Merrick was Italian-Irish. You know, I was a block away from the Sacred Heart High School. It was Catholic. Understand? It wasn't heavy Jewish then. We didn't see Purim. There was nobody dressing up in costumes. Nobody was delivering shalach manos. I didn't see this. And I learned every year the laws. And one year I had a Rebbe invite me over his house for Purim. So he lived in Brooklyn, a place called Borough Park. Okay? I had never heard of Borough Park. I lived on Long Island. So I get a ride into somebody, and I come here, and I never saw so many Jews before. You know what I mean? But not just a whole bunch of Jews. But I said, people were dressed up in costumes. People were delivering baskets of food to each other. It was like Halloween backwards. You know what I mean? It was like, instead of trick or treat, it's like, here's a treat. You understand? And we won't egg your house. You know what I mean? They're dressed up in costumes. And there are people going around. You see people. That's something that either you're going to experience it or not. And a friend of mine, Mel Isaacs, for his doctoral thesis, he did a study on how Jewish education works. And he says, formal Jewish education does not work. Informal Jewish education works. You cannot teach it, you have to live it. That's the difference between the word and the important thing. Your weeks here that you had in Israel are interesting. They're cute. The question is it going to become that suit of clothes that goes in the suitcase? And we all know people who say, yeah, I was in Israel. Here's the pictures. And they take out the album. Oh yeah, I remember. Here I went over here. Oh yeah, I remember. They brought us up the side of the mountain. We almost fell off and died. Oh yeah. Oh, this is really great. Oh, look where we stayed. Oh, what a flea bag. Oh yeah. This was really hard. Oh, here I am with that cute soldier, you know. And that's a guy talking. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, here I am with my picture at the wall pretending to be sincere. You know. And everyone's got their pictures. They have all their pictures. And then they close the book and they put it back up on the shelf. See, if so, I have to tell you we failed. Because although you may have learned things, you didn't receive. Weird. And I'm not saying, I don't like to give out stuff. I had a girl, I was teaching out in Suffolk County. And she says, are you into languages? I said, not much, you know, I speak English, a little Hebrew, you know, some Yiddish. She said, oh, I know Yiddish. Where do you know Yiddish from? You know, they don't teach that in St. Joseph's, you know what I mean? She says, oh, my grandmother speaks it. Maybe your mother's mother or your father's mother? Just out of curiosity. My mother's mother. And why is that? Because she's Jewish. I said, well, I don't know how to break this to you, but you're Jewish. She says, no, I'm not. I was baptized. What can I do? I have to tell my baptized joke. You see, there was this Jew. I have no choice at times. This is what I'm called upon to do as a rabbi. So there was this Jew, and he decides to convert to Catholicism. Now, he knows if you convert to Judaism, it's a somewhat painful process. So he doesn't know what they're going to do to him. So they just sprinkle some water on him. He says, hey, that's cool. Now, that Friday, he was eating a steak. You know, back then, Catholics were not allowed to eat meat on Friday. And the priest comes to him and says, what are you doing? You're not allowed to eat a piece of meat. He says, I'm sorry. It's sprinkles some water, he says, now it's a fish. So he says, I say to her, I said, you know, a little water doesn't turn meat into a fish. And a little water doesn't erase 3,300 years of Jewish heritage. Great line, huh? Write it down. You might use it with something. Anyway, so she says, well, I have to really think about this. So she says to her mom, Mom, is it true that I'm a Jew? She says, yes. She says, we didn't want to tell you to, because it would confuse you. We felt your father had more relatives. So, you know, true story. You decided to become Catholic. You know, fine. Just before Rosh Hashanah, I figured I'd take a chance. She answered the phone. I said, listen, Audra, I just called to say hi. I said, I have no expectations for you. I'm your friend. I don't care if you become Jewish or Catholic. I don't care if you become observant or not. I just wanted to say hi. I met you the first time because I thought you were a nice person, and that's how I still feel. Fine. 10 days later, she calls me again. 10 days later is Erev Yom Kippur. That's when she was leaving for synagogue. I see the sun setting. I guess if anyone ever belonged, she did. There was a little bit of both. And she didn't find it there. She didn't find it there. She doesn't know what to do. She really wants to come back, but she's afraid. I said, then take 2 mitzvahs. So what? I said, I'll just pick random. Say the Shema in the morning and at night. Have it stuck a box. Put it stuck it in once a day. I said, every Friday night at the right time, light candles. Even if you go out with your friends, light candles. The story's a long story. I don't want to go into the whole story. But it was just interesting how she said, no matter where I went in life, up or down, back and forth, I kept those mitzvahs. I kept those mitzvahs. They were my mitzvahs. Now, you have to look at this and say, now I have to tell you, here's the big problem. I had a story once where there was a group just like yours, and they came for a quick tour, and they hadn't gone to any classes. I was the only class. It was like the day before they went back. So I had to work fast. So I said, okay. I said, what are you going to say when your kids ask you, why should you be Jewish? Why should I do this? Some people were giving me answers like, well, it's the best way to live. Well, it's true. Well, is it? And each time I would say, so you're going to do it, right? The whole thing, right? Well, if it's true, I wasn't going to let them have the better of me. They're going to beat me up. I came in, they beat me up. I was like, okay, this guy's a masochist. You know what I mean? And that's a proud Jew. Beat me, kill me, burn me. Ah! Oh, what a religion. I'm proud to be a Jew. You understand? That's nothing to teach someone. We have to teach them something positive. I'm going to finish up now because I want to leave some time for some questions. And I know that education asked Reb Chaim Volozhin, who was the head of the Volozhin Yeshiva. He says, at what age do you Jews start educating your children? Good question. And he answered 20 years before they're born. Because we know that what we learn now and what we prepare ourselves is going to determine what we tell our kids. We can't wait till we have kids to start deciding what we're going to do with them. We have to decide now, who do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to live? Where do I want to help my kids find direction? And with that, I'm going to give just a minute for tremendous applause, and then I'll take any questions. Anyway, yes, any questions on any of this that was discussed or any other points? Because we're going back. Yes, sir?
Were you serious about emailing your book?
Yeah, sure. At the end, just give me a list of addresses. I don't have to do anything. I just have to like email and like attach it. I can do that. Yes, it's a great book. You'll see. I'm looking at
It's a day school versus a Hebrew school.
Hebrew school is an afternoon Hebrew school where a kid goes to public school and then for a couple hours afterwards. A day school is like a private school that has a dual program of Jewish studies and secular studies. So, yeah.
But do you feel that any of this, I mean, I feel like for the most part the problem stems not so much from the teachers, the attitudes of the parents, as from the conservative and reformed movements themselves and the approach that they take to education. Because at least for me, from my experience, these kids that go to the afternoon Hebrew school, the way they look at it is different from the way an Orthodox child would treat the material. And you're right in the sense that they don't want to be there. And so, as a result, the teachers try and make it as fun and, in a sense, as shallow as possible, just to keep their interest.
True. What age is really nice? And so, the more you can bring the kids in, I wouldn't, even risking the various lawsuits, I have kids over my house for Shabbos. I try not to touch them, but I have them over my house for Shabbos. You understand? You know, and you know, the kids get to see a whole different side. And if, you know, and someone's going to take the class away and Shabbaton someplace, you know, let them see it in their community, let them experience it. You know, be like shtetl. Oh, great. Fine, you know, bring in some rabbis who have the answers and let them sit there and answer questions for the parents, you know? Just so that the parents are, like, you know, you bring down some of the God, you know? I'm gonna copy my book. Especially anyone who published it. Yes, ma'am.
What do you suggest? Even in the Reform and conservative movements, like stuff like Jewish summer camps and like Israel trips, I think do more than Hebrew school. Even if kids don't go to Hebrew school, they go to summer camp because it's more like you're living it and you can bring it back home. Everybody around you is doing it.
I learned with our rabbi, being in a conservative synagogue, you're there for the community and to meet Jewish contacts, and they have singles nights, they have things like that, but it was never enough for me. I never felt a connection to God, and they never taught us to love God and to feel that passion for Judaism, and I always felt that something was missing. So when Bracha came along, like I wasn't really ready when she first approached me, but you know, it took me some time, and now I feel, you know, really ready to learn so much more. I mean, if you're asking how I personally got into that. That's how I personally got into it. But I was going to say, the reason that I think, you know, the problem with the teaching, it's not even the teaching, it's the synagogue. That they don't instill in the families a love of God and a passion for Judaism. They teach you, you know, okay, be here on Friday night, and all the singles come 2 Friday nights from now, and you know, services at my temple were half an hour. It was half an hour from beginning to ending, including the rabbi's sermon. So, no, I'm not kidding. It was half an hour. And then afterwards, you know, there was cake and cookies, and everybody schmoozed for an hour and a half. So,
sounds
good.
Where's your
so I guess if I can be so bold as to say, those two movements, they're lacking the love.
I want you to appreciate that if we want to right now write the critique of the Jewish community, it's going to come out pretty bad. And I want you to know that the people in this room have the power to make a difference. I have to tell you that I was one time speaking someplace, and I was going, you know, somebody came up to me in the end, they started saying, what about this problem community? What this problem, that problem? And I said, you're right, you have to work on it, right? You have to work on it. Finally someone said, well, why isn't anyone doing anything? I said, I am. I said, if I have to save the world myself, I'll save it myself. So, once my book is published. But you know, the history of the Jewish people show that it's one person who makes a difference. And if the people in this room come back and say, we want to change things, what does John F. Kennedy say? Some people look at the world and ask why. They look at the way the world is and ask why. I look at the way the world could be and ask why not. That's it. We can make change. Yes, ma'am.
If you were to give our group, let's say, a game plan of what we should do when we get back, I realize that it's a personal decision for each of us to go ahead and do this, but if you could set us going, what would you suggest that we do?
Everybody here comes from different communities?
Let's go to the same school.
Yeah. I think the single most important thing is creative, meaningful learning. You know, I started saying at the beginning that people have a Judaism that's a first grade or a sixth grade Judaism. You know, you can get a great lecture on a topic that touches people's lives. I remember when we were talking about doing mitzvahs with the guys. So I started asking why should we do mitzvahs. The guys were giving me answers. I said, do you like that answer? I said, no. But that's what we're supposed to say. I said, not here. Don't tell me what you're supposed to say. Think what makes sense for you. And you know, and you gotta come up with something that people listen to and they say, yeah, it makes sense. You know, I would definitely make, you know, activities that focus on something that is meaningful to people. You know, not like, you know, another hill. Away from, you know, esoteric questions. Why are we doing this? You know, does this still have any relevance to us today? You know, are we paranoid about anti-Semitism? Are we taking it too far? I mean, come on, everyone's out together. You know what I'm saying? And on and on and on. The more people look at it and say, you know, that makes sense. And that fits into my life. That's number one. Second thing is, besides study, is...
Like the gift too. It's like that, I mean, it's
a political crisis when we believe that that the peace process came into critical point when we are making new and new concessions while Yasser Arafat is not ready to make any concessions, and now at this moment we are talking about went to Washington meetings without having government behind him. So I left a very important position of interior minister, which was very important for all the process of integration of new English in society. And our party decided that at this time we are talking about very important issues, about issues of survival to think about the big picture. What is symbolic for me is that Israel gave us a lot of strength to fight in the Soviet Union, and now we are trying to strengthen Israeli society in a very critical moment about history. In fact, just when I left 2 weeks ago the government, I moved to this tent where we are collecting signatures which are calling to create national unity government. Our message to Prime Minister is that we cannot go for such far-going concessions, far-reaching concessions without building first consensus in your own country and in your own coalition. So you have to build coalition. And it's interesting that
is it going to be possible to deter since it seems like there's an overwhelming non-support of what's going on?
Accelerated by the fact that American administration is interested to encourage any type of deal as soon as possible. And when Arafat is standing firm and is not going to make concessions, and Americans are pushing for having a deal. And we are split here among our leaders. The desire of some of the leaders, the Prime Minister is, by all means, we are in a very critical moment. I can't be sure that this will not be signed. But I am sure that if it will be signed, we can have a very successful campaign in Knesset and rather among our people to stop this agreement. And that's my message to Ehud Barak, with whom I spoke only 30 hours ago. I said on one hand that if you sign the agreement, you will be the first leader in 3,000 years of Jewish history who agreed to divide Jerusalem voluntarily. And if you will not sign, then I can promise you that we will try to help you, if you come back without signing any agreement, try to help you to build broad unity government, which will be based on much broader consensus, on much more clear and strong red lines, in order not to give up all our main achievements. It will be tough struggle.
Before they go back, as to stay loyal to the Jewish people?
Well, look, all my experience is that all our strength, wherever we live, all our strength is from this feeling of belonging to the people with 3,500 years of history, with a strong tradition, with a strong glue which connects us all over the world, and with Israel and Jerusalem as the heart of it. And I believe that's why that not only survival of those who are living here, but survival of us as people all over the world depends from what's happening here, and depends from to what extent we are all united and connected and feel our common fate. And from this point, I think, first of all, strengthening your connection with Israel in all possible ways. With those who are ready to make Aliyah, those who are not ready to make Aliyah, but those who with their countries, and strengthening their connection with Israel and the Jewish community is extremely important for us. But second, in this critical moments of our state, to make your voice heard. It's very pity that politicians always try to use the voice of American Jewry as something which definitely is will be always behind the official point, or definitely behind the official policy of the United States of America and so on. I think at this moment it's very important that the voice of American Jewry who are concerned about the future of Jerusalem, about the future of unity of our people, will be heard.
Do you think that if the Prime Minister comes back signing something, do you think there'll be a riot with the people in Israel against him?
Well, Israel is a strong democracy. It's a Jewish state and democratic state. And one cannot be without the other in this connection. I believe there will be no riots against Prime Minister. I believe that in big demonstrations, there can be riots and violence on the side of Arabs. I think if we continue accepting it as the argument for future concessions, we will not be able to keep anything. So we will have to disappear. That's why we have to be very strong against that. יש לכם עדיפות עכשיו, כי הם באו רק...
No, I just wanted to explain one thing to them also. I think it's very important that Americans should understand that Barak isn't in a minority, both in the Knesset and with the people. The only possible majority...
Us to prove that what you said is right. Whether there is majority of Israelis who go against it or not, it has to be proved by us. So we cannot wait to preach to American students to do it.
The perception is important. Barak cannot be sending 25 people for Hezbollah to convince American Jewry that this is really what the people want.
We are already not in the stage of perception. We have to...
I don't understand why it hasn't been Israel's policy to be very strong-armed and not to let ourselves...
Listen, you're welcome, okay? Now, after the fact that I think you said in America it's different. You can see very clearly also the Zaplo America, that it's not accident that the Jews are by far the most liberal part of all Indians, real or not real, or any others, Jews will be, or blacks and so on, Jews will be among the first who will resist and who will fight against it. So if we will take now it's back for us as a country, and after all we are a country of the same Jews who came from the same tradition of human rights and liberties. We found ourselves in the station when it is much more difficult for us as the state than for any other state in the world to fight even for that we have all historical rights to them. And even just only today, yesterday today, some ministers in our government are ready to speak about giving away part of Jerusalem only because the majority of people who live in that area are Arabs. If we start applying this principle, we can give away many parts of Israel, including in the heart of... If it will sometime, at some moment, become debated in America, let's say, what about the areas where Indians live, or Mexicans live, we'll see that the Jews will be among the first advocates of this cause. Not all the Jews, but you will not find many non-Jews who will be advocating this cause.
Has it been offered to reach peace besides using land to do so?
What?
What other possible solutions are there besides using land? What else is suggested?
More than 90% of Judea and Samaria. The other option could be that we already transferred 40% of Judea and Samaria, and by this we transferred to 98% of the population, or simple population, control over their own fate. So to add some other percents in order to make it more comfortable, that's it. And then to discuss how we guarantee them full sovereignty and different rights and quality of life and so on. The fact that we accepted this process, which in fact step by step means that we are giving away 100% of Judea and Samaria, I believe it's very dangerous mistake. And now we are in the final stages of this dangerous process. Even at this point, I believe it's still not late to stop it. And or to make sure that the Prime Minister is not signing this agreement, or when he's signing, to make sure that the people of Israel, both in Knesset and in general, will not accept it.
And I'll explain it to them. Let me get questions from the students first. John, you had a question?
Yeah, and then...
I'll tell them, I'll explain it.
No, and then I want to continue. Beside these points, I have to do...
like some natives, especially taxi cab drivers, and they really like you a lot, and they say a lot of good things about you, and they're all behind you, and they have a lot of support for you. And I was just wondering, wouldn't giving back land, I mean, giving back land for peace, it seems to me like if you give back land, you leave Israel vulnerable for war again. Doesn't that, like, I don't know?
In fact, there was a big battle between Likud and Marach for cab drivers, and I think Likud won, and now I think Shas has also something to do with this. But it's true that instinctively, simple people understand very well that giving away lands is something which is irreversible. It's something against that process of gathering of exiles in the land of Israel. while what we are getting in exchange is only promises of better attitude. And that's why instinctively we are demanding something much more specific than simply words. On the other hand, as I said from the very beginning, the problem is that people, after all these years, people feel very strongly that we don't want to control the other people. So it's natural that we want to give away the control over those lands where majority or where practically everybody is Palestinians. But what somehow in this process we are demanded to give away practically everything, and and each time the threat that if you will stop this process in 4 days there will be violence is working on us. And when people feel tired of the work, and when people feel hopeless, when people don't feel themselves strong enough as a nation to resist, so they prefer, okay, maybe it's very important that Israel will be getting strength from the Jews of the world. And that's why I'm saying it's exactly as this 1 million Jews who came from the former Soviet Union is today strengthening a lot the station here. And in fact, if there is, if Ehud Barak has big doubts that he will not be able to pass his agreement which he will sign in the referendums, mainly because of the firm resistance of New Immigrant Street, I believe that you, Jews who are very important as the part of public opinion of Jews in America, also can say your word in a very strong way.
Quickly, Evan.
Okay, very quickly.
Do you think the Knesset is being swayed to give away the land more for the threat of loss of money from the United States more than the idea of peace?
Look, it's the help of the United States is good when there are strong people who can use it. But if the people feel that their national desires or aspirations are broken, no money can help. That's why I believed from the very beginning that the fact that American assistance became part, in fact, of the package of the deal, which we are supposed to do, I think it's a big mistake. It's wrong from moral, Zionist, spiritual, and practical terms. And with all the importance of American help, after all, Israel is a very dynamic, developing, and strong modern economy. As a former Minister of Industry and Trade, I can tell you this. And only if we'll
Should be בהצלחה. Okay? We'll take this back to Los Angeles with us.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Go. Thank you.
We're all supposed to put in имеет большинство количество members from your party in the Knesset were pretty much split in your minority.
We have много партий, которые, так сказать, считались более... Кнессет всегда становится. Но есть часть Кнессета, которая входит в правительственную коалицию. Мы поддерживали правительственную коалицию, я был министром внутренних дел. Мы объявили о своем выходе из правительственной коалиции, мы присоединились к оппозиции. Теперь, как только мы вышли, так и другие партии к нам присоединились, теперь меньшинство правительства, нет большинства в Кнессете. Поэтому есть правительственная коалиция. Now you use me like a camel, yeah? Okay. Only those who are running for Senate seat can do a picture. Because they need it. Okay. You're running for Senate or member of the House?
Eli, вы уходите оттуда?
Okay.
Oh, it's like...
You guys already eaten lunch?
Let's not get listen.
It's been in the refrigerator. They just had it out right now.
Because then they make shape.
Okay. For the last 10 years, your position position. Listen, he has an interesting government position. The last 10 years he was involved doing
Personal status issues of immigrants.
Personal status issues of immigrants to the state of Israel. What else? That's it.
No matter what it takes, we know what it takes. We'll do because we have
Okay, what's happening now? We are or we are
Therefore,
not?
we're not going to weaken ourselves under any circumstances. The only way we're going to have peace is to be strong. Okay, there may be tension, but we'll be strong. They'll be afraid to attack. Anyway, that's the other side.
What's the only
That guy has some kids. No, that's not the worst case scenario.
What's the worst case scenario?
The worst case scenario is we lose. It's going to be finished. I mean, except for God's promise to us, but the way it looks very bad. You have the demographic problem. The Arabs are more and more in the Knesset. They are very against the Jordanians. And hundreds of thousands of Arabs inside Jerusalem to come back. So, and if we keep weakening because of the threat that they're going to become more violent, and the reason they can become more violent is because we give money and we give them guns and they keep hurting us.
What are they going to do without the people?
Not exactly. I was elected as a mayor. So one was more than to be a member of the parliament. I'm the mayor of Netanya. Netanya is a very beautiful city.
You're on the beach. Sorry.
What's your view on this whole? You know, first I want to say some words. I came from the professional. I'm not a politician from the roots. I'm a professional. I'm a social worker in criminology, and I was the head of the education and welfare and health and absorption, etc., sport. And yeah, a very big I want to be the deputy mayor. Etzel and Lech is 3 groups, and my father was in the Etzel. This is the roots of the Likud. So this was my education. I was brought up by Jabotinsky. This is the way of thinking. And but even though I'm not extreme, I think we have to be logic and to face with the problems that we have today. And I agree with the fact that we have to try. We have to try to do our best to tell the other generations that we try to make peace in this area. But always the question is the price. And I think the first thing that we have to do is to make everything what Sharansky asked here, to make the people in Israel, before we fight against our enemies, we have to look for bringing fight here, it's weakness. And what is not, all agree that in any situation, if it will be peace or not, if Israel will not be strong, will not be there. So no one thinks in that way, because never, the Arabs will never love us. If someone thinks that they'll tomorrow be united, if we will not be united, we will be divided like today, it's a problem for Israel.
Do you think we shouldn't sign that peace?
I think that I don't know the details. You know, everyone is. I don't know the details about what he is going to sign. What I'm sure that before he's going to sign.
My claim's not very important, but this is my receipt from my cab ride issue.
So what's going to happen to be strong, and the strength is not only a set of physical, to be strong. I was now in France for a few days. There was a meeting of mayors around the Mediterranean, Morocco and Palestinian. And I was visited a family, and a girl from Israel was there, and she's 18 years old, and she's now joined the army. And I spoke with the adults and so I'm very afraid of what can be now in Israel if we will be divided and what will be with the future with the people who are in Yesha. I have some friends of no one, even if he's a very left, and I'm the friend of Sarid, Sarid. I like him. I can argue with him. I can have other ideas to say of a Jew in Israel that I would prefer him to be in other place. Never, no one. And when I heard it, I was shocked. But this is the education that you get.
Right. But the stronger we become, they are still gonna, no matter how strong we are, they're still gonna dislike us. Yeah, that's a pretty weak word. But
you can't
what
force
do you
him.
do?
You can't force no one to like you.
Right.
You can't do your best
but you have
to.
enemies in your own state.
Yes. So, but you can't send them away.
Right.
You can't send them away. So only we can send from our Jewish from the houses.
Want everybody united. Why do they allow Arabs in the Knesset?
They are not allowed?
What they are. We've been here for about 3 weeks now. We're leaving tomorrow. Los Angeles. Yeah. No, just Los Angeles. Our trip is just Los Angeles.
They study what? But now it's holiday, no? Or you're traveling now?
Now, well, we tour in the afternoons. So we stay in the Bay in Harnof, and then we tour in the afternoons going places.
So you like it?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Interesting? You know, you didn't look at him.
What?
You look like a Russian girl.
Oh,
yeah. No? Yeah, just working with the youngsters now.
Oh, really?
From Russia who came here to Israel to finish the school. You already all after school, right?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You too.
Yeah, I said the temple was destroyed because our Kamsa was a traitor. Okay? He says to me, did you read the Gemara? I said, yeah. He said,
They don't care about what we
past the 67 to go on to the Kingdom of Jordan. I heard someone earlier refer to this as the West Bank. I have a serious problem with referring to this area as a bank. I sort of wish I lived in a bank. It might make life a little bit easier. But it's called the West Bank, being hills from the Jordan River. So to call it an area, right?
Get this side of the bus. Ready? You're starting to come down.
cheated on me. We were engaged and he dumped me because my engagement wasn't organized.
If you're an atheist, it's not going to fit you. And that's fucked up. That's fucked up. And everybody can be moved.
Except for that tragic
Tree of death. I don't know.
No,
There's no
tree
one,
is the
right?
one that they took the apple.
Well, we have a husband holding an apple, he was tree.
One,
This is the funniest picture I've ever taken.
1, 2, 3.
Is about 700 years old. It's pretty old for an oak tree. It's pretty old for an Israeli tree. There are few trees in Israel that are that old. You were in Tzfat already, right? Did they take you to see my my old olive trees there?
Yes.
There are 2 trees in downtown Tzfat. One of them is about 1,500 years old, and its mother is standing next door. It's about 2,000 years old. They're both olive trees that are still giving olives. In other words, you have a tree there that was giving olives at the same time that the Holy Temple was standing, and it's still giving olives today. But this tree doesn't give olives, it only gives acorns. It works like this. Just like I mentioned earlier, that when Am Yisrael came into Eretz Yisrael, so most of the country was covered in forest. So over the centuries of modern times, when there were very, very few people living in this country, and the ones that were mostly living in the cities, except so that the few trees that are left, few trees that are left, were mostly left in particular places of honor. For example, holy sites that were recognized by the Muslims at that time as being holy sites. So they left 1 or 2 oak trees or olive trees or whatever it was around there. This particular tree is left, but we don't know where the holy site was, if there was some kever sheikh, if there was some ancient holy Arab man or Jewish person or whatever of his students coming to Yerushalayim. But the main push was only in the late 1800s when people started to move out of Yerushalayim, build new neighborhoods, and more people were coming from Europe because of the pogroms and the terrible situation of the Jews in Europe starting in the 1880. So a lot of Jews came to Eretz Yisrael. And a lot of people were inspired to move out to the countryside and try to remake a living in the countryside like our forefathers did. A rural establishment. Wanting to come back here. So in the 1940s, it was actually in 1943, there was a group of kibbutznikim who were waiting to set up a new kibbutz. They were set in Surim, Ribadim, and what was the last one? Whatever it's called. I'm not going to go there anyway. Who cares? It'll come to me. So these 4 settlements became isolated because the roadway from this area was to the north to Yerushalayim and to the south to Hebron. In 1948, there were no Jews living in Hebron, and the closest Jews were the ones in Yerushalayim.